welcome to this video that belongs to Lesson 2 of Module 4. My name is Mari Carmen Suárez de Figueroa Baonza, and the aim of this video is to present the methodological guidelines proposed in the new methodology for performing the Ontology Requirement Specification. First, let's define the Ontology Requirement Specification activity, which refers to identify and gather the set of requirements that the ontology must satisfy. This activity seeks to establish why the ontology should be developed, which uses and users can have, and what requirements must be covered. Once the requirement specification activity is performed, the Ontology Requirements Specification document is obtained. The new methodology, described in detail in Module 3, proposes as part of its methodological guidelines the guidelines for the Ontology Requirement Specification activity. These guidelines are based on a workflow that consists of 8 tasks. These tasks involve people with different profiles and experiences. Now, we are going to detail the main tasks to be performed during the Ontology Requirements Specification activity. The first 3 tasks refer to identify why the ontology should be developed, the limits of the ontology, that is, the scope, the level of formality, and or the implementation language of the ontology, the intended end users, as well as for what purpose the ontology is going to be used. Then, a number of tasks related to the ontology requirements are proposed. Firstly, the identification of the requirements, both functional and non-functional ones. On the one hand, the non-functional requirements should be written in natural language. On the other hand, functional requirements should be written in the form of competency questions. Then, the grouping of functional requirements is needed. For doing this, there are different approaches. One option is to analyze the frequency of the terms in the competency questions and group the questions based on the terms that have higher frequency. Other possibility is to use pre-established categories, such as time, measurement units, locations, and so on. After this grouping, the validation of the set of requirements should be performed. That is, potential conflict between requirements, contradictory requirements, missing requirements, and so on should be identified. Thus, the objective of this task is to decide whether the set of requirements is valid. Once we have validated the set of requirements, we should perform task 7, that consists of establishing priorities in the set of requirements. The aim of this task is to provide different levels of priority to the requirements group, and also within each group to provide priorities to each requirement. The final task proposed in the workflow for the Ontology Requirement Specification activity refers to extract the terminology used in the competency questions and their responses, as well as the frequency of such terms. The aim is to obtain a pre-glossary of terms to be used during the ontology conceptualization. As a result of carrying out the different tasks proposed in the workflow, the Ontology Requirements Specification document is obtained. The methodological guidelines proposed in the new methodology provides a template for writing such a document. In this template, different fields for intermediate results of the workflow are reflected. For example, some slots refer to the requirements including functional and non-functional ones. Other slot includes the pre-glossary of terms that can be divided into 3 groups: the terms included in the questions, the terms included in the responses, and the terms referred to objects in the domain. Finally, we present an excerpt of the Ontology Requirement Specification document, in particular, requirements for an ontology in the domain of public employment, which was developed within a European project called SIMP. Let's see now a summary of what has been presented in this video. We are going to continue, but we recommend you to stop and summarize what you have seen in the video. The Ontology Requirements Specification activity refers to define a collection of requirements that the ontology must satisfy. The aim of this activity is to establish why the ontology must be developed, which their uses and intended users will be, and which requirements the ontology should cover. As a result of this activity, the Ontology Requirements Specification document is obtained. The workflow for the activity proposed in the new methodology consists of 8 tasks. The first three tasks refer to identify the purpose, scope, and implementation language of the ontology, as well as the intended end users and uses of the ontology. Next, it is needed to identify the ontology requirements, including functional and non-functional ones. After that, it is necessary to group the functional requirements. Then, we need to validate the set of requirements, and having the requirements validated, we should provide priorities to such a set of requirements. Finally, it is recommended to extract the terminology and its frequency. Finally, it is recommended to review the additional material available in the platform. Thank you very much for your attention.